All right, mates, you have clicked that thumbnail. You have clicked the title. This is 5 November 1 targets for the Cronulla Sharks. I'm your host, Phoenix Trinidad. This is Darren Parkin. Darren, the Cronulla Sharks did pretty well this year.
Yeah, they did. The finals in particular. I mean, at the end of last year, coming off top four, there was a belief that they were the side maybe most likely to bridge the gap. The other of the top four sides, the Roosters, had sort of blown up their list a little bit. They ended up having a very good year, the Chooks, whereas the Sharks probably laboured through the season a little bit, didn't really look a premiership contender at any stage until they hit their straps in the finals. The win over the Raiders was super, and then they were pretty competitive against the Storm in the preliminary final, but they're a fascinating watch on this because obviously we're talking 12 months down the track. So they spent a couple of years in the top four, but in both of those years, you never really felt they were going to win the title.
Yeah.
So where are they in a year's time? Is it the case that they can bridge the gap and contend, or do they need to do a Roosters type thing and completely reshuffle? So they will be fascinating.
Yeah, all right. So we have 5 targets lined up for them. But before we get into it, just remember, this video is brought to you, of course, by ZeroTackle.com. Not only is it Australia's #1 independent NRL news source, but it also has games. So we have a bunch of games on ZeroTackle.com. Perfect for that off-season. Also, subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. We have heaps of content coming out also during the off-season. And with all that out of the way, let's do 5 contract targets for the Cronulla Sharks. Alrighty, so as you said, Darren, the Cronulla Sharks need a little bit of a push. They might need to reshape their list. But let's take a look at their current 2027 squad. So you have all your big names in there currently signed, like your Thomas Hazeltons, your Nico Hines, your Fanua Blake. So where do you see this moving for all the Sharks?
Yeah, there's a few things they need to build. I mean, what they did at the back end of the season was centred largely around a pretty resolute defence. Now, premierships are won that way, so it's a pretty good core in that sense. You look at a few things like Cam McInnes likely won't be at the club at the end of 2026. There's some long-term players that are, potentially looking elsewhere for opportunities to extend their career. So you look at Nakora and those sorts of players. And in terms of, some genuine pressing needs on their list, whether it be a fullback, lock forward, those types of things might be something they want to address going forward.
Yep, absolutely. Well, let's address that now on our end. So our #1 option for the Cronulla Sharks, we're going to go with Josh Curran from the Bulldogs.
Yeah, previously before that at the Warriors, he was pretty close to Origin selection during that time as well. Been probably an underrated part of the Bulldogs' surge through 2025 that saw them go into the top 4. Has the capacity to play a couple of positions, can certainly play on the edge as well. I think he's going to feature quite a bit when we talk about this thing. I mean, salary cap might be an issue with the Sharks, similar to when we've done this in the past with the Brisbane Broncos a couple of weeks back as well. But if they are going to perhaps squeeze a little bit of extra coin out for someone, maybe it's Josh.
Yep. Pretty reasonable there. #2, we're going to go with a Trey Fuller, who has absolutely set the world on fire for the Dolphins. A pretty interesting and a fun pick, I think.
Yeah, and it sort of ties around a little bit with the future of William Kennedy. I mean, we spoke about the salary cap squeeze a little bit. I mean, they may not be able to afford him in 2027, but maybe not even now in 2026. Yeah. You bring in the elephant in the room, which is the Perth Bears throwing their extended salary cap around, which might lure some of these players away from them and away from some of these top clubs as well. Fuller hasn't been, spoken about too much in this sense, but has been a real asset for the Dolphins. He's not particularly experienced, but he does have an enormous degree of upside as well. But that upside probably brings with it a price. So, yeah, a lot of it depends on where the Kennedy money goes.
Yep. Interesting. And #3, we're going to go with Scott Sorensen from the Panthers, a defensive play here.
Yeah, we spoke about how they've got a pretty good core of defence, but they need to build that out a little bit further, and potentially another Penrith Panthers player picked off the fringe what was another very strong top 4 season for them. Sorensen has represented his country in New Zealand as well. So, yeah, he would certainly be an important player as well. So, yeah, I think could be someone that Craig Fitzgibbon looks at to complement what they already have as a pretty stable group.
Yeah, so out of defence now comes, they're shaking out some of those forwards. So one of those names, one of the options, number 4, Xavier Va'a from the Roosters.
Yeah, they could do worse than that. The Roosters initially have sort of gone on a bit of a poaching spree with them as well, so could be lured away. Huge men, very powerful, certainly part of a side that would be compact enough in finals, or robust enough rather in finals to maybe be able to rub shoulders with some of those battle-hardened teams like the Melbourne Storm if they were going to close that gap. So, yeah, I think a lot of this comes down to we're sort of forecasting a reset of sorts for the Sharks. It just depends how big that actually is at the end of the year. But, yeah, they would be important players for them.
Yeah. And one of the things we've mentioned before, so you expect Cam McInnes to leave at the end of 2026. So that brings in option number 5, which is Dylan Walker from the Eels.
Yeah, they'd be looking for a couple of things there. A bit of versatility, players that can play multiple positions, and a damaging option as a forward. So Dylan Walker certainly would fit that bill. Bit of a signing that would suit them in terms of a short-term play to keep them nice and competitive as well. So he'd bring a bit of spark and a bit of dash, and can play a number of roles, be it off the bench or on field in 3 or 4 different areas.
Yeah, absolutely. All right, Sharks fans, let us know what you think. They're our 5 contract targets for the Cronulla Sharks for that November 1 deadline. Thank you, Darren. Subscribe to the YouTube channel if you haven't already. Again, plenty of content this year in this off-season and again for next season. This is all very exciting stuff. All that being said, see you in the next one.